Victor Miller, author of the very first and the best Friday the 13th on The Movie Raid.
It's time for the movie raid, and this time we have a writer, tonight's victim. Victor Miller wrote the screenplay for the original Friday the 13th. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Hello. So you got some new projects going on. What's up?
Well, after, let's see, I haven't written anything except emails for the last 6 years. And I was at the Big Bear Horror Film Festival last October and met a whole bunch of people. I liked the whole deal, and I'm going to be going back again this October. But met some people, among whom was a producer-writer named Michael Coulomb, and we picked up email correspondence and Facebook and stuff, and we started talking about maybe doing a project together, and he found another writer, Martin Rogers, and the three of us are writing a scary movie on Skype and in Dropbox. And it's the first time I've attempted to write a screenplay in a group, though for 25 years I wrote soap opera this way, and it's been more fun than I've had, I can't tell you, in a long time.
No. Is this pretty much an independent film, or is it you actually going to try to get this to be pretty much in theaters?
Oh, I have no idea. Right now, we're just experimenting with the. I mean, we've got a storyline. We started with one storyline, which we all decided was not going to fly because it was too much like a whole lot of other stuff that all of us had seen. Plus, it kept giving me flashbacks of Friday the 13th, and I've already done that. So we came up with a whole new concept, and we're just sort of floating along. And if we can sell it, that would be great. I think if the finished screenplay is as good as the outline that we've got so far, I think we could sell it, and I think it could be really fun. And we've spent 3 or 4 months just really finding a way to work together. Because it's not the easiest thing in the world. It's an unnatural act for 3 people to write a movie together. Mm-hmm. But as I said, I spent 25 years doing soap opera this way, so I'm very easy with it. It's more like improvisational theater than it is screenwriting, because screenwriters are notoriously lonely fellows that sit by themselves and every word they write, they're convinced is gold and don't want anybody to change it. And here we are, 3 people saying, "Well, I don't know whether I like your scene. Well, I don't know whether I like your scene." And so far, we've been doing really well with it. We'll see what happens when we get to actual dialogue. We haven't even gotten to dialogue yet. We're just basically working out all the beats.
No. Do you get when you do a film like this? Do you actually get some from freedom doing writing as for a film? Or even the TV shows that you do?
This is the most freedom I've ever had, what we're doing now, because it's kind of spooky to say it, but I don't need the money. So as a young writer, there was always the idea that if I didn't sell something, I was going to starve. So I have never had this kind of freedom. I guess the last time I was this free, I was writing poetry in high school, and also doing short stories in college, where you just wrote anything you wanted. And here, I mean, basically, I'm writing whatever pleases me and the 2 other guys that we like, and we keep. What's nice is so far I've seen that writing this way, they make me better. Because I can't just sit there and grab my first idea and say, "Oh, this is good," because we sit there and we hammer out these things on Skype, and I just keep going back into the process, saying, "Well, no, maybe we can do better than that one." And so the project, I'm really happy with it, and I'm feeling very fulfilled, to the point where I've dropped out of. I had been doing a lot of photography and stuff, and that was my creative outlet. And now it's pretty much this film at this point.
You ever thought about doing some directing?
Never.
Never?
Never. The few times, actually not the few times, I've been on a lot of movie sets and television sets, and I cannot think of any more boring way to spend your life than to be waiting between scenes for the lighting and the sound and the actors and the costume and the makeup and the oh God, I'm just not built that way. I'm ADHD. I was ADHD before it was invented, and my God, the idea. I mean, just the making everybody be quiet, and then they have to all sit still, and then you say, well, you know, I'm willing to take the first take of almost anything because I just want to get on the hell with whatever we're doing, and yet, you know, you're going to go on to take number 27 because the lighting wasn't quite right, or there was a shadow across somebody's nipple, and oh Lord, it's just I don't want to be anywhere near it. I want to write it, I want to think about it, I want to imagine it, and then I want to go to the opening.
You want to have your time. That's what you want.
Oh yeah, God. I mean, it's just. But you know, that's why there are certain kinds of people born in this world, and they're called directors, and there are other kind of people called producers, and they're pretty horrible. And then there are writers like me who are just nuttier than fruitcakes.
And some do both, writing and directing.
I know, and I don't know how they do it. I mean, those are those guys who I didn't like at high school either, where they. You know, they labored over everything, and I shoot from the hip, and you really have to tie me down to make me do rewrites.
Yeah, and especially like all the retakes and retakes and retakes, and then you got to edit all that. You almost feel sorry for the cameraman.
Oh, I feel sorry for everybody involved, but they all seem to like it. I mean, some people love Winnebagos.
No,
I can't think of anything worse. If you can't put me in a hotel or a nice motel, I don't want to be in some truck.
Yeah, I know. with a camera, especially with a crew.
Oh, please. Yeah. I think I'd go back to drinking if I had to do that.
Yeah. Well, with this new film, is this going to be pretty much on a location, or do you pretty much consider?
Well, Martin's got a location up in Montana that we're thinking of using, and so. Yeah, we just have some exteriors and then a whole bunch of interiors, and it could all be done up where he lives or anywhere. I mean, at this point, we are not limiting ourselves, though I must say that the locations Martin had seemed like a good place to start. So we just, actually, I don't know, we seem to be feeding each other a lot, and I'll leave stupid notes in the Dropbox for us, and then I'll get a note back from Martin that says, "Oh, that was cool. I think we can add this and we can do that and that." Yeah, and it's terrific. And what's most interesting for me is because one of the reasons I have not attempted to get back into the horror business in the last 15 or 20 years anyway is that I was born in 1940. I'm 71 now, and I don't think I have a lot of the chops for writing for today's audience. I know, I'm a really good craftsman. I know how to put together a piece of drama and make it work. But there's a lot of the sort of the sentiment that goes into the demographic that's going to movies now, and the dialogue and the things that turn them on, and these kinds of things. There's nothing worse than an old guy trying to fake being cool for young people. And so here I am working. Martin's like 24, and I think Michael's in his early 30s. So we've got the demographics covered. So if it's like when I talk to my sons and I attempt to be cool, and they go, "Oh, Dad, come on," so that we keep each other honest. I don't try to write or understand what's going on in the average 22-year-old head. But I can tell you what makes a good scene and what elements you need, and things like that.
Yeah, everything's all poppy now. Let's.
Yeah, evidently, and these guys have a lot of production experience. I mean, Michael's been a script editor on a lot of shows and a lot of movies, and Martin does all kinds of location work and technical stuff, and so I just say, look, I'd like blood dripping down from this thing over here, and they say, "Oh God, we can do that with blah blah or X or Y or Z or things." I say, "Fine, call me when you figured it out."
It's like, I told you what I said. Now get back to me whenever.
Yeah, because I like to just think of things on the screen. I don't want to know how you do them. It'll slow me up.
Yeah, it's almost like, when a new film is being premiered, like, something like on DirecTV or whatever you use, they show behind the scenes before the film is really promoted in theaters. It's like, I don't want to see that till I see the film, man.
Well, there's that, but I never watch those. What I do see is, even on public broadcasting, which usually does pretty good stuff, the what used to be in the old days a cold opening, you see the titles, and then you go right in. Here's some detective wandering around and finding a dead body. But now they show you 60 seconds of the best cuts they can find, the best clips they can find from the entire 90-minute show.
Yep.
So I am now seeing pieces before I'm supposed to even see the show. It's like a trailer gone wild.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see the trailer right before the movie. I would like to see it the way it was written, the way it was intended, the way it was directed, not the way some PR guy had figured out. Here are the 10 best, most interesting visuals in the movie, and I'm going to use them all up in a nonsense way. It's insane. My wife and I, if there were a way to make the screen go black instantly without turning off the entire rig, that would be great, because then I could say, I don't want to see this. It's like I mute stuff that I don't want to hear until it's dramatically I'm supposed to hear it.
Yeah. Sometimes they even show footage of the last scene from the film.
Absolutely, which is insanity. I mean, there was a great what's his name was Chris Elliott's father, Bob Elliott and Ray Goulding. Bob and Ray were fabulous radio pair of clowns in the 50s and 60s and later. And they used to have a running soap opera, radio soap opera that they did, 6 minutes a day of. And they were doing things like they'd end on a cliffhanger where the guy comes in with a gun and says, "All right, I'm here to kill you all." And then the announcer comes in and says, "Well, tune in tomorrow to hear Bob say, bang, well, I guess I've killed them all." So that you state the dramatic, the hanging cliffhanger, and then you answer it so that there's no suspense for tomorrow.
Yeah, now they just leave it up to someone being pregnant.
Yeah, and that's, well, now they do it, and when I was working at ABC, we would work our butts off to find a really good tag for Friday especially, but every day to have a tag that would make the person, the viewers, want to come back the next day and see what the outcome was. And then, sure enough, the publicity department that had nothing to do with us would snag the good stuff out of the following day and throw that up on the screen as a preview of coming attractions. So it would answer the question that we had left hanging in the same day. So it was exactly what Bob and Ray had been parodying long before we got that bad. So it was, anyway, I'm glad that I'm retired.
Are you sure you're retired, man? You sure you're not going to come back? A lot of people say that, but Michael Jordan did like 3 or 4 times.
Oh yeah, no, this is I'm just having fun now doing this thing. I don't know what we'll do.
Well, what about theater? Have you go back to theater?
Oh no, God, oh, Lord! I mean, that just gives me the chills. I did playwriting, and that was crazy. And I don't know. I really enjoy what I'm doing. I read people's screenplays. I critique them for them, and I talk to people who want to write stuff, and that's fun. And now I'm actually making up stuff with these other guys, which is fun. And I don't think the screenplay is going to be finished for another year at the rate we're going, which is fine, because this is one of the first times where I don't have a deadline, because I used to write as fast as I could because I needed the money.
Yeah, well, it's completely understandable, man. You got to get the money somehow. And
yeah.
I mean, even Wes Craven, I believe I got that correct, that when he did Hills Have Eyes, the
right.
second one, because he needed the money. That's what he said.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I met him in Sean's kitchen before, between, I guess it was before Nightmare and before Hills Have Eyes, when he was just I guess he was. It was before both of those, and so yeah, no, we were all hungry wannabes.
No, but until this day, do you know if it would actually pan out or not?
Yeah.
A lot of people say, "Well, you got something to fall back on."
Yeah. No, we had. I had my wife to fall back on, who was a legal secretary, and that was it. And that wasn't the biggest cushion you ever saw either.
Yeah, I tell you that film today is like you got so much technology, and you got a bunch of the film industry's shifted as far as genres go. Now everyone likes these comic book films.
Yeah, well, I mean, but everybody goes through everything. You know, there was a time when you couldn't on television you couldn't sell a Western because television had sort of used up all the Western movies, and so you couldn't do Westerns. And then Gunsmoke and Have Gun Will Travel and these others said, well, you can, and then you couldn't. And then, but there's always somebody coming through pontificating about what is this thing. I mean, the audience will go to anything that is fun and good and new, or even old. I mean, the worst part of Hollywood is the cowardice, because the money does not want to risk itself. So it says, well, if Friday the 13th made money, then let's have Friday the 14th and Friday the 15th and Friday the 16th, and meanwhile the poor young filmmaker is sitting there saying, well, I've got something that nobody's ever seen before, and they say, well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to risk $89 million on that. And so, I mean, there's a movie, Tucker and Dale versus Evil, that my son hooked me up to, and it's a wonderful film. It's not only a parody of a horror film, it is a horror film, and I think it was at Sundance last year, and it was like the audience favorite, and I don't think it got picked up by any studio for distribution, and I think that's probably out of cowardice, because it's neither a full-bore comedy nor is it a full-bore horror film, so it was hard to put it in a category. But if you can find a copy of it, look at it, and you will have a wonderful hour and a half.
Yeah, now these days it's getting really more rougher to get these independent films out on DVD onto a shelf, because very few films are doing that now. Even if it's the most cheesiest film ever that no one ever liked, some of them actually still hit the shelf somehow. Yeah.
I don't know a thing about the direct-to-DVD business other than I have some friends who've done that and done perfectly nicely. I guess it's getting harder these days, but I don't know much about that business or the porn business other than there seem to be buyers out there for all of the above, and I'm what I love is the Zucker brothers. I mean, I'll go anywhere to see another Airplane.
Oh yeah.
Or any of that good stuff. And I was watching Spy Hard, one of the Leslie Nielsen movies that wasn't a Zucker brothers movie.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, you can if you're going to teach a comedy class, a filmmaking class, I would have everybody see in one afternoon Airplane or Airplane the sequel, and put up in Spy Hard, and you can see genius versus attempted genius. And I love Leslie Nielsen, and Spy Hard, I had a number of laughs at it, but if the Zuckers had done it, my goodness, I just think it would have been incredibly much better.
Yeah, it's like when they attempt years before then, where the film at that time was still in the process of trying to get popularity, someone just to even look at the film.
Yeah.
And now, like years later, it's a cult classic. Because you had, at the time, film critics were like the biggest thing, the most important thing as far as making the film out there.
Yeah.
Now it's like, well, yeah, it sort of is, but it's just a little redundant now. Because, this film was pretty shitty and It's like they get a little too rough on certain films. It's like, it's not that bad.
Well, I know, and plus it has the film critics have no relationship to the box office whatsoever. I mean, the critics are pan all these movies right and left, and the people still go out and say, I don't care. They were saying, well, they're getting all kinds of esoteric on whether the latest Pirates of the Caribbean was as good, worse, better, and it didn't seem to bother the box office all that much.
No, because you got these sequels like Pirates of the Caribbean, and it goes to a different direction every time.
Yeah, yeah.
But as I said, some sequels don't make it too far because sometimes they just drag it on and on and on. It's like there's got to be an end to the story somewhere.
Let's hope so. God, it's just I don't know. It's like the alleged remake of Friday the 13th that I just thought was such a scandalous ripoff of the audience because it wasn't a remake, and yet they kept selling it as one, and I think the audience felt really screwed.
No, it's a lot of remakes, and just they say they want to point it toward the younger generation or try to recap to the ones that love the old franchise.
Right.
But it doesn't do very well because you look at the old stuff, it's like it's raw stuff. I mean, they didn't have the fancy stuff we have now. And then now you got fancy camera action, this and that, but they kind of screw up the story.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you want to do a remake, then stick with the original script and get all new actors and your new cinematography and all that and the new special effects, but do a remake. And if you want to stress some elements, but in the Friday the 13th case, it wasn't a remake in any sense of the word. They sort of, I guess, went back over in a very short period of time the past as a kind of a flashback, and then went forward into stuff that nobody had ever seen before, which is not a remake in the least.
Or they'll clash certain pieces from the original films and clash into one film, like what they did with Resident Evil. They took bits and pieces from the actual original video game and cram it all into one film, and then make a sequel, and then put like, okay, this is between 3 and 2 and Code Veronica. So it confuses people, man.
And I guess the producers are perfectly happy if they can just get one good weekend out of these deals, because the word of mouth is not good. Everybody goes for the first weekend thinking, oh boy, this time it's going to be a real remake, and it isn't, and then the word gets out, and I guess they do all right on DVD sales or something. But I'm not complaining. I've had a very nice life out of all of this deal, but and Hollywood has always been this. It's always been about the money. The money comes in here, and the movies come out here. And if the money doesn't continue to come in, movies don't go out. So you can get as artsy or as perfectionist as you want, but this is still it's called show business. It's not called show art or anything else.
No.
So I can whine all the way to the bank.
Well, do you think writers that do remakes like that film, amongst many others, think it's more of a little bit easy way out and an ego booster?
Yeah. Oh, I think, but they never hire the original writer to do the remake. They hire somebody else who's where I was in 1979.
Yeah.
Is trying to is either going to sell his blood or pay his rent.
Yeah, but the weird thing is that they will hire the same composer from that film.
Oh, absolutely, because I think it's that's part of the franchise, and everybody says, "Oh, I love the music." It's a con job.
Yeah, it's like you.
But I love Harry Manfredini, and I've never stand between him and a paycheck.
No, you put all this hard work in, and you get your credit, but you don't get appreciated for the credit you did.
Nah. Well, I would love to have done a real remake, or even a prequel. Mm-hmm. But nobody's interested in that.
Prequels is a little bit of a gamble because it depends what it is. Like, for example, they were thinking about doing The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing prequel. So, well, that kind of ruins it. Yeah. We already know what happened.
Right. Well, I mean, but in the prequel to Friday the 13th, I'd love to see Mrs. Voorhees as the camp cook on the day, and all the events that lead up to Jason being allowed to drown, and the immediate aftermath.
Because you got more story to her character.
Oh, absolutely.
Because in the original, you know she's a very, very dedicated mother, and she would do anything for a little boy, and that includes going into voodoo.
Yep. But here you'd see her going from a perfectly normal, well, perhaps not normal, but a perfectly nice camp cook who loved the campers and everybody else, and she had a very severely challenged son who she hoped everybody would be taking care of, and he was kind of a mascot and whatnot. And you build the thing until you have that scene in which she learns what's happened, and then you watch her absolutely come apart at the seams, and the thing ends in mayhem. But it has to be done in such a way that nobody ever suspects her of having done it, because obviously she's allowed to continue for years and years as the before the opening of the first one.
Yeah, because I mean, like every sequel always almost happens directly after that sequel.
Yeah.
Like, okay, the woman's in the boat, and then after that you see like the cops leaving, and you got another one.
Right.
Which is really cool because it's almost like episode wise. You know what's going to happen directly after that.
And that's what's really happened to nighttime television as well. They have figured out that, I guess it's a result of the sequelization of America, is that most, in the beginning in television, nighttime television, each individual episode was a complete story in and of itself, and you could, if you did reruns or syndication, there was no particular order that you had to see them in. And now everything is sequel. Everything is sequential, so that you have to, and so that's why most of nighttime television starts with previously on the Victor Miller Show. It shows what happened last week, whereas before you never had to have that. And there's something about that. They're trying to. That's one of the things that kills daytime soaps, is that you got nothing. It's not soap, but it's nighttime serialization.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a whole new kind of thing. Whereas before you could just say, well, give me another show with Marshall Dillon and Chester and these guys, but you don't have to worry about what happened last week to Marshall Dillon. It's just a different week.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what's going on, but everybody's playing it real safe, I can tell you that.
Well, what are your opinions on TV shows? It's more likely so-called reality shows than anything ever.
I do not watch. I mean, I've watched a minute and a half here, and I may have watched a whole episode or a half an episode of one of those ones where you have to pick a bachelor or something like that. I've forgotten who, but for the most part, I'm against them for all kinds of reasons. First of all, they suck, and second of all, they're not really reality, and they aren't unscripted. They use writers. They don't use union writers. I'm in the Writers Guild of America, and that is a really good union, and it's well, anyway. So it's a cheap. They're cheap to make, and they're just, oh Lord, it's like they're holding up as some sort of ideal, or I don't know what it is, but it looks like if people emulate any of the characters on these shows, America's going to be even worse in 20 years than it is now. I mean, just these schlemiels running around loose, and these losers, and I don't know. Do we really want to have an hour-long show in which we just feel superior to everybody on the show?
Yeah.
I don't understand it, but I cannot lie and say they're not popular, because evidently they're popular as hell.
Yeah, well, a good majority of the decision why that is because the networks like it. Oh, well, this is going to sell, some hot chick getting bitch slapped and torn all over the place. Yes, let's put that in there. Let's make at least 700 episodes of doing the same thing.
And they don't cost any money to make. I mean, compared with hiring really good actors and really good writers and directors and getting sets and costumes, these things are a walk in the park. I mean, I've talked to people I've talked to a person anyway who's got a child in rehab, and the intervention shows, they have to come up with bad stuff. I mean, if you have a really successful, let's say that we're going to do an intervention on you because you're morbidly obese and you have to lose 300 pounds. If you suddenly go away and lose 300 pounds and are very happy, that's going to be a really loser show.
Yeah.
They have to get you to come apart and have a psychotic break or scream and yell and cry and throw things and walk out on people and refuse and then go eat and then come back.
Yeah, same thing with hunting down those mythical creatures like Bigfoot or something. It's like, okay, so there's a camera in front of this guy. There's a camera behind this guy. There's a camera on the side of this guy, and nothing's going on. Especially the paranormal, like the ghost hunting ones. I mean, come on.
It's just nutty, and but my wife and I are loving a lot of the cable shows. I mean, we can't wait for Sons of Anarchy to start again because I think that's a really great show and it's fun and Justified is terrific and there's some lame ones we watch just because we like them. The White Collar I think is kind of lame, but Burn Notice is fun and but most of these are not straight network kind of pieces. They're quirky, they're fun. Dexter is another one where I'm more than willing to watch something where people are taking chances and it's risky stuff and it's kind of unpopular. I mean, like Sons of Anarchy is all about a motorcycle gang and everybody's doing illegal stuff, and yet they're all our heroes.
Yeah, for some reason people love those judge shows too.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, but judge shows are really great if you're feeling depressed because everybody on a judge show except the judge is dumber than you are.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, you see the female cop over there? I mean, let's see, she's blonde and she's got long hair and it's not in a ponytail. Let's see. Yeah, she's a real cop. Well,
the thing about the judge shows is I just feel so good. My wife and I sit there laughing, saying, well, now, come on. If you've been watching any of the judge shows, you know never to sign for somebody else's cell phone or co-sign for their automobile or sign a lease and then expect to get rent from 4 other people who are all drinking. I mean, and yet they keep showing up and say, well, I'm suing this person because we were madly in love and I signed for his cell phone and he owes me 8 months rent and a cell phone. And
I saw that episode actually.
And he said it was a gift.
yeah, I saw that episode. That was like, what, a couple months ago?
It's every week.
Yeah.
They just keep finding these knotheads that are running around loose saying, well, she bailed me out. I didn't ask her to.
She hit my dog.
She hit my dog. I'm countersuing for pain and suffering.
I know. It's TV. It's just so crazy these days.
Yeah.
You don't see the only actual shows that as far as sci-fi or horror is pretty much on the Sci-Fi Channel or Chiller Channel.
Right.
You don't see a whole lot of good stuff like that anymore. Now they're finally creeping up with the sci-fi films, which is great because you got they're slowly creeping up like monster films and
yeah.
But they're also rehashing the stuff that's been released years ago, that's been going on for years, and now they're readapting novels that's already been done 1,000 times. Look at Wizard of Oz.
Well, it's just I think if I had to label this decade right now, I'd say this is the decade of cowardice at everything. I think the politicians are cowardly. I think they're not doing anything. Everybody's following the money. I'm not going to do anything that'll cost that'll make me lose any backers, and I'm not going to show any shows that might be risky and controversial. And so it's all about the money. It always has been, but it's also I'm not going to take any risks. And so nobody with balls out there at all.
No, it's just it's all productivity. I said this before. It's all productivity. They want to get it all out. It's like a big assembly line. Okay, this is popular. Get this out. Get this out. Get this out.
Yeah.
How about this horror film? No, fuck that.
Because the banks own everything.
No.
So it's not like you have a studio head does not have the power he used to have back in the day, and the studio head is now beholden to a board of directors and stockholders and everybody else running around, and he's just trying to hold on to her. She's trying to hold on to her job, and the hell with taking a risk on this young filmmaker from Des Moines who's got this really hot idea that nobody else has ever thought of.
No, it's the same thing with novelizations. You don't see a lot of mini-series anymore.
Right.
As I said, the film industry has shifted in a big way, but you see some 3D finally came out. Now it's kind of slowly dying back down again.
Well, anything to get you into the theater, and but what the hopeful thing is, I do go. I go to the Poppy Jasper Short Film Festival here in Morgan Hill, California, in the fall, and I see an awful lot of good work coming out of young filmmakers in 20. That Poppy Jasper is basically art in under 40 minutes, and the work is really good. And there are a lot of other short film festivals around that are equally as good. And then the Big Bear Horror Film Festival was terrific. That was the first time I'd been there last year, and I'm going to be a regular part of it, I hope. We go down to Big Bear Lake for a weekend, and you see really cool films that you're not going to see anywhere else, both animated and live-action horror shorts and feature length. And you meet the people who are just like you, trying to find money, and they got the inspiration and they got the equipment. They just need the cash.
Yeah, it gets rougher like almost every single day.
Yeah, yeah.
Economy's fucked still.
Yep.
And I don't know if you read about this or not, but now California, some of the representatives of the government of California was actually considering on banning video games to kids from renting or buying them. Now,
if they're under 17 or 18 or whatever it was.
Yeah, and actually making it a law.
Yeah.
So the question is, what would really happen if films ended up being like that in the state of California?
Well, they tried to. I mean, that's what the rating system is supposed to be, and you're not supposed to be in there unless you're with a parent or guardian or that thing. I mean, it was in the 50s when I was 10 years old, and they had hearings in Washington that the comic books were too graphic. We had all those horror Crypt Keeper type comic books, whereas before that we just had Sluggo and Nancy and Archie, and so they got really scared that my generation would be bent out of shape and made into crazy serial killers if we read all of these evil comic books. So, every once in a while, the generation comes along and says, I'm going to save the children. And nobody's succeeded at it yet.
No.
We keep ending up with horrible adults like my generation.
Yeah. All right, we're running out of time, man. But
okay, man.
If you were to really pinpoint, what do you think the biggest problems in film or television today that's pretty much affected, it just needs to be fixed in some way?
Oh, God.
I know there's many problems, but what would you say are at least some of the major ones?
I'd say the removal of testicles is the biggest problem. That there's just no balls out there. Nobody is. They're too afraid to fail. And so they take the path of least resistance, and so they make safe movies rather than good movies.
Well, it's like, okay, well, the film went to shit. Oh, I'm going to make another Day of the Dead.
Yeah, exactly. And only we'll round off some of the edges because some people were offended. And we're going to have focus groups to see which, how much gore we can have or how much tension is too much. And, Can we get a G-rated horror film? That'll still bring in the R group.
Yeah, it's like, what can we do for this company?
Shoulder, and I don't blame them. It's a terrible economy, but you're not going to get great movies out of people with no guts.
No, it's a lot of them are just pretty much more focusing on, it's like, what can we do for this company?
Yeah, absolutely.
Rather than this is your film, man.
It was your life. So
Yeah.
the only place you can play guts and glory is in film school, and that's where I guess I'll look for the good stuff.
It's almost you're back to just with a crayon, huh? And just
something. Yeah. But no, if we're running out of time, just if people want to ask me questions or have me look at their screen stuff, I do it and I don't charge for it. And the web address is victormiller.com. So Give me an email and we'll talk.
Well, Victor Miller, writer of the original Friday the 13th, not the remake.
Not the remake, yes. God.
We'll definitely have you back on once we get this new film coming out, man.
Oh, well, or even before.
Even before, even when we get some photos of this damn thing.
Yeah, there you go. I'll give you the trailer.
Yes, give me the trailer, yes.
It'll ruin everything.
Yeah, show me the ending first, and then we'll go to the middle.
Yes, and we'll go 6 months earlier.
Yes.
There'll be the card there.
It'll be so awesome. I'll have it on. I'll burn it on disc, and then I'll go to the theater and I'll film it illegally.
Thanks for having me on.
There you go, everybody. That's tonight's victim, Victor Miller.